warm welcome. Good morning. Yesterday it was super sunny. Today also the weather is very nice, so Berlin is kind of shining. And I like to walk you through a little bit of a keynote, give you some impressions, what we are doing, how we see the world. It's definitely a little bit provocative. You see also the chessboards here. So if everything would be easy, the world would not be complex, but we have a global world. I see someone from Maersk here. I think they know a lot about globalization and supply chains, just from that perspective. And I'm really happy that despite some talks regarding ESG, sustainability is losing of importance, we can say we have here, I think, 40% more than last year. So obviously the demand is increasing, exactly what Antonio said. If we can make the connect between, or the shift from an ESG talk towards a financial perspective P&L talk. And this is also the idea of the next few minutes. I want to walk you a little bit through the connection between, some of you have seen also the Iran conflict topic, what energy management and decarbonization and all the things have to do with each other. We called our session here the Industry Endgame. Some of you know last year we took the theme carbon as a currency. For us, from a Carbmee perspective, that's already clear. So we do not even talk about that carbon is a currency. So this was our topic last year. Right now we go one step further, the industry endgame. And even if it sounds a little bit negative, I hope at the end we go out with a very positive impression, because every endgame has a lot of opportunities and everything with disruption and innovation is basically connected. So that's a little bit the chessboard story. Maybe some of you have asked themselves, are we playing chess right now? No, we don't do it. But it's the theme behind. Just from a wake-up perspective, good morning, everybody. Reflect 10 seconds, ask yourself, are you honest to yourself? I am not a meditator. I was in Singapore 3 weeks ago. I had a nice meditation on Bali because I had 5 days of vacation. I had a meditator. She said, look, the hardest thing is basically to be honest to yourself. And during the meditation, these 3 or 4 pictures came to my mind. I should intro with that. And no one needs to answer. And I am definitely also someone who is eating a cake. I am definitely someone who is drinking a glass of wine. Some of you may that I have even a wine shop. But regarding smoking, fighting, I think that's the only thing I definitely have never done and I will never do. But the thing is, a winner's cigar also doesn't hurt, I would say. Nevertheless, it's all about the amount. And it's even more important for you personally, how much do I consume? Yeah, it's nothing against to consume, but you need to be aware. If I'm drinking a bottle of vodka every day, it's definitely affecting my own, let's say, lifetime value, if we call it like that. That's why we say that's the personal end game. And you need just to be honest to yourself. And I really want to focus on that, being honest to yourself and not always try someone else should do it. Oh, the state can help me. Please give me more support, dear state or someone else. Be responsible for you. And dear CEOs, be responsible for your company. That's basically what we call entrepreneurship. Because apologies and other topics, we have enough. Just making this example a little bit more clear. Because basically we are in a transformation, that's what is behind this slide. And every transformation, because we are all human beings, Rome wasn't built in a day, you know it. It takes either 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. And that's very interesting. If we just look at the seatbelt story, I mean, we needed rules. Otherwise, we would not even have understood that we are killing ourselves, basically. And the difference is pretty high. It's like around about, 70% or something like that, just due to the beginning and the introduction of the rule. And some of you may right now know what I want to imply with that. If you don't have any rules, may it be CBAM, may it be ETS systems, everybody else will say, oh, I am not affected. I still drink a bottle of wine, but I am not affected of the negative consequences of the bottle of wine. So that's a little bit the idea behind it. And we really reflected about it, and it was that obvious. Right now, it's just a question for all of us. How fast are we? And how much provocative can we here in the room, let's call us the decarbonization leaders, how provocative can we be towards our C-level? Because basically the C-level has 10,000 things to do, but it's our job to invent some stories to provoke them in the beginning. Otherwise they don't listen because they have 100 stories per day. And then to deliver, this is then the rest of the day, to deliver some nice P&L figures, that they stay awake and then follow our proposals. Another nice example, I had to laugh a little bit in the last 4 weeks, even if it's definitely not funny what is happening right now geopolitically. But we hear it very often on Stammtisches, oh, the petrol increasing, right now my Easter vacation is super expensive. No, that's first world problems, luxury topics, then only go on vacation 1 time per year, that's also cool, or buy an electrical car. That would be also an option. I don't understand sometimes all the discussions because it's also obvious if we would be honest to ourselves. If you just see the difference in the price increase, so basically if you have an electrical car, you would not even care about what was happening in Iran in the last 4 weeks because you are not affected. Some of my friends also told me diesel in the peak of the Easter weekend was at €2.60 or something like that on the highway. Difference. So just some analogies where I want to create awareness about how important it is basically, first of all, to face the reality, confront the others with the reality, and we need to provoke them in order to basically reduce the time of the transformation. And we are very, very democratic, which is brilliant. Nevertheless, it should not take us 15 or 20 years in order to make a transformation. Maybe we can make it within 5 years, so that would be my wish. Because basically we are living exactly in such times. So I think that's pretty obvious, very high level. Just from a summary perspective, for us it's all connected, and not from a ESG perspective, but more or less from an energy management and energy cost perspective. We will also see it later. From a supply chain perspective, it's an easy game. The difficulty is that you have 5,000 or 10,000 suppliers and you need to basically to convince them that they are using green energy for production process. And right now we are coming back. If you have 100 or sometimes 2,000 procurement experts in your team, first of all, you need to train them. And maybe you always show them those slides I have presented in the beginning, that they also start thinking out of the box and wake up. Oh, first I need to buy an electrical car, for example. Then I need to think about my alcohol and my sugar consume. And then maybe I really think about talking to my supplier that he or she should use green energy. So that's a little bit a step, because otherwise they have the old bonus systems where they are incentivized, unfortunately, only on cost reduction. And if your company has not been able yet, even after 5 or 8 years, to define internal carbon prices, because, and I don't name right now anybody, but we had a nice conversation yesterday, how should the procurement guys then reduce if they don't get bonus? And we are all working according to bonus in business very often, because we are not idealists, we are capitalists. That's why we work in companies. We structured it a little bit to demystify also all the noise a little bit. I think the key message here is, this is geopolitical short-term noise. This is distracting us from the end goal. This is the reason why we say Endgame, and this is a bigger transformation. And I have my professorship as a digital business transformation topic, and I say always, this transformation we see here right now is double or triple that high than the digitization, because we have taxes. 2016, 2019, you ask someone, some chief digital officers have been there, look, are you digital? Then someone says, yes, I am digital. I have an incubator, I have an accelerator, I have a digitization office, blah, 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 blah. Are you 70% digital, 30% digital, or 90% digital? Oh, we are 100% digital. Okay, but no one has been penalized. Right now we have penalties, and CBAM is the brilliant example. That's the bottom-up taxation, which is connecting the ETS systems. So here you have hard numbers, may it be 8%, 2%, 15%, that's a tax, which means the impact of this transformation is double or triple the times higher than only the digitization thing, even if it's more unsexy, to be honest, because it's basically a real disruption and a change. But in every change, there is a massive opportunity, and we have here many companies also in the room who are seeing that, to become the eco-friendly leader in a new eco-friendly industry, which is pretty interesting if you see it like that. But in order to see it like that, you need to get some provoking shakings that you really realize to need to start. That's a little bit the circle around it. So basically, short term that, you could also basically put COVID into that area, because always if a small interruption is coming, we stop thinking strategically, because we are only interested in the next 2 years, because maybe our CEO contract is only for the next 2 or 3 years, or our political contract is only for the next 3 years. Other countries have an easier life because they have a 20 or a 30-year plan. This is why they can double down and why it's easier for them to be successful. I see a very interesting signal from family-owned businesses because they have a long-term view. Family-owned businesses are a little bit like our friends from China because they have a 30-year plan, but other companies have definitely a harder fight to fight in order to not get distracted from this part. So just to give you an umbrella, what all the things have to do with each other, that's obvious. I think everybody knows that. We have tried to cluster it in very easy 4 steps because that's the next biggest challenge. We had Omnibus, we have CSRD, we have 75 ETS systems globally, we have the packaging regulation, we have EUDR, we have CBAM. I do not want to name it. I had a chat with Thomas Schulte. He was the CPO of Bosch. Right now he turned from CPO to Chief Sustainability Officer, which is very interesting, that move. And he said, look, we have 300 plus regulations globally, and logically they are also changing every 6 or 9 months. So it's not possible to react. We need to just see that as a big thing. We should have a database or whatever in order to be proactive instead of being reactive and just wait for the next penalization in a country. So basically for us, the 4 core topics: energy management, decarbonization, recycling, and eco-friendly products are the biggest projects which are driving your P&L. The one piece is basically cost, the other thing is revenue. And then, and this is also the reason why it's all about business valuation, and also speaking out loud here, BlackRock just is quiet right now to the American leader. I mean, that does not mean that the content is not there anymore. They are just smart in the US right now, but they continue working about that. I can tell you, we thought 1 year ago, okay, let's watch and observe US, what's going on, but we did not lose $1 single from our customers' revenue in the last 12 months. Right now, I'm almost there to say right now we should double down because the energy game is kicking in even more. They don't call it ESG anymore, but from those perspectives, they see a strong cost perspective and revenue increase. Because, and that is basically the game, and I will show you a pretty simple procurement example after that. That's pretty obvious. If I'm looking to that slide, I'm really asking myself sometimes, what are we discussing in the news, in the media? It's really obvious. And if you come from a procurement perspective, it's also pretty obvious. If you can motivate your suppliers to produce some of those energies, maybe someone from the procurement area knows still the good old Pope of procurement from Volkswagen, Sons. He came and invented basically lean management, Kaizen and KVP, and he coached the suppliers to have clean industry shop floors, etc. And then they made the revenue share. Basically, if you reduce 10% of the costs, you get 5%, and the 5% is getting the customer. That's a similar game you can apply for that one, because if you motivate your suppliers to use the right side for the production, there's definitely a lot of cost savings. Just take half of them, and then your boss is happy. And then you have, by the way, also your traditional bonus structures improved. This is the example I was mentioning, and that's pretty cool, thanks to Jacqueline, who has prepared that in our academy yesterday. Some of you have seen it. So that's pretty interesting. If you have the suppliers A, B, and C, definitely different production methodologies, but the same product. And the result is pretty easy, because if you motivate them just to take solar, you have definitely a cheaper sourcing process, and then you can share the wins. This is just, I mean, if someone is interested in getting the slides, that's not a problem. We can share it afterward. Making a bigger picture again, and this is really global figure, but this is massive. I do not always want to talk about negative things regarding endgame, personal endgame, industry endgame. Every endgame I said in the beginning, and those figures are coming from Swiss Re and from BCG. We have basically 168 billion cost and risk in the whole carbon thing globally. And I cannot even speak about the number, to be honest. And this is also where I want to focus in the green revenue potential. And I know also the story, coming back to the transformation, someone who is very negative, very risk aware. Did you already achieve some green premium pricings? I would say no one did it from the existing products with a sales team. Only those companies who have really invented new green eco-friendly products, because they have a complete new go-to-market entry. Because it's brutally hard to change the mindset of your existing sales reps from selling traditional stuff like they did it 10 years, 20 years ago. So you can really make it only, and this is also the bridge to the digital transformation. With the existing sales team, you would never have been able to sell a digital product if they have sold hardware products 20 years before. You need to change the sales reps. You need to make a new business unit. This is something you should apply, and you all know it. Yeah, we have 20 years of digitization right now behind us. Should apply the same principle here. You do not need to reinvent the wheel, because that's obviously an interesting market, I guess. I mean, that's basically the reason why we are there, and we are growing 3x every year. I mean, that's a nice example just to give you a hint. Complexity, I know, it's easier for a startup with around about 100 team members to do something like that compared to companies with 50,000 employees. Because 50,000 employees are behind this easy org chart. And this is basically why we have invented not, but we have added our software service from a target operating model. You know it also from the good old process slides, but it's important that you pick up the right decision makers on the right level. Board level needs to be incentivized and educated, kind of align the company process. Here it's very important that on a tactical layer you are able, or you have instruments, tools to connect your different team members. Very simple sales. If sales doesn't get an automated product carbon footprint scenario planning opportunity, how should they be able to achieve a carbon premium pricing? So basically, again, start to work and think about processes and equip the sales team with the right data, and then they can achieve 10 or 20% carbon premium pricing. If they don't have it, they cannot do it. And finally, you need to connect basically also the enablement with the tools and the process landscape. We have shaped it a little bit and tried to bring in the chessboard logic, and it's only 2 or 3 more slides where we tried to focus on what is really important. And I think the next slide is even more clear. Without transparency, you do not even know where to start. This was not me, this was Peter Drucker, also some decades ago. I think that's also a very traditional principle. Peter Drucker said you can and should only improve what you can measure. Fun fact, I mean, talking about scope 3, it's pretty obvious. If you really think you can start improving with a spend-based methodology and you have 80% plus in scope 3, I would not recommend it, because the inaccuracy is around about 30%. Yeah, and if you want to reduce 30% of the overall emissions, I think it's self-explanatory that this does not make too much sense. That's why we always recommend get the emissions transparency on an activity-based level first. The big advantage is if you have it on an activity-based level, you have also built the foundation that sales, procurement, production, LCA teams, and finance already are connected because it's transactional. That's the beauty on it. Sure, it's a little bit of an investment, but I think we have lost already 3, 4, 5, 6 years with talks, with PowerPoint slides, which have been important. But after the first year, we should move from PowerPoint basically to action. And then we can derive out of it the different areas where we want to have our special projects. Bringing that back to life, so we call this an outside-in analysis. Usually we do that with every company. The good thing, everybody of you has almost published 2 or 3 sustainability reports, some with more info, some with less info. But with nice AI tools like Claude or whatever, it's also easy, to be honest, to have an initial session and to analyze it. I have been at a company last week where we have just presented, for example, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. Then we have kind of clustered a little bit the criticality analysis from a product, from a customer perspective. We have matched it to the product criticality, and we have connected that from an outside perspective, high level, with the suppliers which are connected to the products for the critical customers. This was obviously mind-blowing. For us, it's the daily job. And we can do that already from an outside-in analysis. If you then would do it from an inside-out analysis with a little bit data from you, then you can go to your CEO and you can basically create something like a slide like that, and you derive it out of your revenue, and you can then tell your CEO, look, we have 28% revenue at risk and 10% cost affected in 2030. Ideally, you do it with this 2080, 2028, 2029, and then they listen to you. Because if you come to them, look, there's an ETS system and a CBAM regulation, and by the way, we need to do something for packaging, they would look like you like, okay, where are you talking, what are you talking about? I have no clue about that, and it's not important. But P&L is definitely the different language. Last but not least, I want to just summarize what we have achieved right now, and that's a great opportunity to thank our team. So first of all, thanks to Robin, my co-founder, that he is managing also my kind of mood and working mode. It's like in a wedding, if you start a company 5 years ago, but we have both different partners. We are just business partners, but if you work together since 5 years and you are still alive, that's, by the way, the biggest reason why startups fail. It's not because of the lack of innovation or whatever. 98% is just because the co-founders do not like each other anymore after some years. So thanks, Robin, for that. And yeah. And of course, the rest of our almost 100 team members right now. So we were growing, and right now we are able, we call it carbon under management. So in the next year, we want to then start with carbon reduced. This is two things, and our target is in 2030 to have all emissions from Europe under management, and those are the carbon emissions we are managing for our active customers right now already. So that's really massive, and what I'm even more proud of is the number on the right side from your perspective. So it was clear for me, but it was not that clear that the number is that big compared to others. So we are managing already 300,000 suppliers, and we are not managing them on a CDP corporate carbon footprint level. I really need to make that very clear. We are managing them on a transactional level, so on what we call supplier carbon footprint, product carbon footprint level. And I have not seen anybody else globally, not even in Singapore or in the US, who can deal with that, which is super fun. And yeah, we just keep going. And I wish all of us a very nice session. And we'll just end up with that presentation. Basically, that's our core product. This is this connection. And then we have a nice carbontology topic. Robin will talk about all the details, what that means, carbontology, where you can basically bring all those use cases home, because it is complex, but we always start with product carbon footprint, supplier carbon footprint, and carbon footprints. And then all the other questions around the core circle are coming up. But you should not lose yourself in all the different topics. Always start with the core topics, and then you can extend basically the next steps. That's it from my side. I wish us a very interesting, valuable, and hopefully a lot of exchange for the full day. I want to leave you with my last question, just from a reflection perspective. No one needs to answer that now. Just that you think about during the day, some coffee chats. Are you ready to act business, or do you rather want to react? That's basically up to you. And if you think that your whole business leadership team is on a different view like your view, you can also think about, first of all, provoking them. If they don't hear you, love it, leave it, or change it, as always. Thank you.